All right. So, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Angling Unraveled with Mitch and Doug. This week, we got the Alabama Bass Council on. A lot of you guys have seen a lot of Slick and Ryan lately. I mean, Slick's going off with all the MLF stuff and calling out all that. And me and Doug have been sitting back and laughing. So, we wanted to bring him on and talk to him about a bunch of different things. Slick's got some cool stuff going on in Fishing Chaos and the Fishtok Open. So, there's a lot of stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I want to talk about is the Alabama Bass Council and how, because obviously it started out as kind of like an inside joke, right? And then it developed into something else completely. And I kind of wanted to talk about how you guys came from that to now you have merch, which, by the way, if you go to Ryan's page, you can find that under his bio there on TikTok. But kind of wanted to see the whole process and how it developed and got to where it is.
Yeah, it started out. I don't even know why I said it the day I said it, but there was a pro-am on Wheeler, and Jordan Lee was fishing with our buddies Chad Hall. And a couple of days earlier, I had put out a list of the top 10 anglers in Alabama. And that particular day, our buddy hooked Jordan in the head. And it was a big deal. They had to get the hook out and all that. So this guy that we know come up and he goes, wouldn't it be funny if you went back and demoted Chad from the list? I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I went and did a video, and that was the first time I ever said the Alabama Bass Council, and I was doing it as a joke. And I did that video, and the next day, Lake had a high school tournament, and we got up at like 3 a.m, and I looked at that video, and it was at 150,000. And I thought, are you kidding me? Like, I just did it a couple hours ago. So that morning while we were fishing, it got to.
Oh, Slick, you muted yourself. Why did Slick? You muted. Hold on. I think you muted yourself. Why is it say he's muted?
You muted him.
I didn't mute him.
It's probably Nick Nasty muted him somehow.
Ban? No, we don't want to ban him. Slick, can't unmute your guest there. Slick, your mic isn't connected. He's just going off. His mic disconnected.
Cut, Slick. Cut.
Slick, you're disconnected. Oh man, guys, this is he's over there just talking. Ryan, we might have to call him.
Let me text him real quick. Maybe he won't kick me off.
I think he might have figured it out now. Nope, maybe not. Oh.
Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Right, I'm texting him.
Oh, he left. Oh boy, that was fun. You guys should have just seen. Wait till you guys see this on the other pages. Oh, there he is. Add to stream. All right, there you are, Slick.
Hey,
somebody called me, so
I
don't know what y'all heard, but the walleye algorithm cheating scandal was what caused that video to go. So a week would go by and I'd do another something stupid about Alabama Bass Council. Well, along that time, me and Ryan and Goob and we had talked one day about doing a live to help Goob. And so we did. We just called it In the Shop with Scrubs. Well, during that time, the Alabama Bass Council thing was catching on more and more and more. So I started doing videos about Ryan, about him being the Pirate Patrol, and about Nick being over the Department of Conservation. And so it just grew into the Alabama Bass Council.
Well, the Pirate Patrol, I'll tell you a quick story on how that got started. We were down, and I was running the camera boat, and Slick was running the camera boat for the ABT championship, and my son Fisher and Brody Hopper was fishing in it. And I was kind of, the first day I ran a camera boat, second day I didn't. Well, the first day there was some issues, and Slick was on Fisher filming him, and he texted me. He said, "Hey, there's a dude down here trying to push him around because he's a young kid, you know." And Slick's like, heck with this, I'm not letting this happen. So he pulls up there and he's sending me to talk to him. He's kind of getting in between them. And the guy's kind of throwing right on top of him and just keeps coming on him. Well, anyways, the second day, I told Kay, I said, I'm going to go watch my son. And Slick's like, I'll run the camera boat, his camera boat, let him go watch Fisher. So that's what I did. So I'm watching him, and he's in this place, and this boat flies in there. And I never go to where he's going to. I always sit out in the lake, let him make the move, and then I'll come in and sit 100 yards from him. I don't want anybody to say I'm hole sitting or something. So he's fishing, and this dude comes in, sits down, and he's been there a while, and he fishes right up next to Fisher, and Fisher cranks up and takes off. Well, this dude cranks up and takes off. So I'm standing behind him, and Fisher goes into another creek 4 miles down the lake, drops the trolling motor, starts looking at him with a Garmin, fishing. Dude comes right in, idles past him, sits down, starts doing the same thing.
Green hat. Don't forget green hat.
I ain't got to that part yet. But about the third time, I told Slick, I was like, I got a freaking pirate over here or something. And he started saying the pirate patrol and everything. And then we started calling him Green Hat because he had this lime green hat on. And I text Slick, I was like, Fisher's headed back down the lake towards the area you're at. Tell me if Green Hat comes in there. And I said a lot worse things than that. I mean, I can't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't know that he was still recording, and he had sent me a video of what he was saying when Green Hat come by.
I sent it to Slick. He just busted out laughing, but it was just kind of odd, you know. The dude was following him around on 3 different areas, and I asked Fisher. I said, "You see him yesterday?" He said, "I've never seen him." I was like, "That's weird." So that's why the pirate patrol got started.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So people lose their minds about stuff, but I'll do videos every now and then on something that we probably need to change in the fishing world.
Yep.
But if you went out and said, hey, we need to do this, people don't take it serious. They ain't going to listen to you. But you wouldn't believe the people that think the Alabama Bass Council is real.
I can imagine.
I can only imagine. I've seen some of the videos.
And listen, it just happened. So the first time I did it, and I put the hashtag in there, I spelled counsel wrong. And I spelled it wrong on purpose. And I did that because I do unique hashtags so I can keep up with stuff. And people started going nuts. You didn't spell counsel right. Well, yeah, I did. I spelled it like we're attorneys, like we're the law, like we're the legal counsel.
Yep.
And so it's, I did one day about we weren't even going to let the ABT fish on Gunnersville next year. And Kay called me and said, "I'm going to kill you." She said, "I'm getting call after call."
She said, "I'm going to give everybody that's calling y'all's number." I was like, "Oh, Lord, don't do that."
Yeah. And Nick sort of started something similar to this a couple of years ago when he quit fishing on Facebook. When people would put stuff on Facebook, Nick would come in and say things like, "So I run tournaments here and I make up funny names for the tournaments. I got like the Speedy Cafe Mega Bucks World Championship." And so I had a tournament. I announced this tournament and I won it 2 weeks in a row. And I changed the day. One day I did it on Saturday. The next day I did it on Sunday. Then the next day I did it in the afternoon. So Nick come on Facebook as like the bass fishing chairman or something and said that the only reason I did that was that I put the tournaments when I thought the fish were biting for me. And man, he would just dog me out. And people thought that we hated each other. Here we were best friends and nobody knew it. And he would just dog me out on Facebook, and I'd go back at him and tell him he sucked, and that's why he wasn't fishing anymore. And people thought it was real, but it wasn't.
Jake's lure joint was going back to that pirate story. When we were up on Traverse this year fishing that tournament, when he came up here with me, we had a walleye boat do the same thing. Like I ran over to a spot where I knew there was probably a bunch of 4 and 5 pounders, did the same thing, caught a bunch. Dude watched me catch like 6 beds, and at one point he was like 30 feet from the back of our boat. Like we were sitting right on top of a bed that we had already fished, and he just kept following us around. Like we went to 6 different spots that day, and he just followed us.
I think people's like our Pirate Patrol like hats and stuff, they don't do very well. They don't sell very well. I think people scared. You know what I mean? They're like, we're gonna get fight or something, you know. But
Yeah, I think if people heard the story, they would probably understand it as the inside joke, and then they would probably.
Oh,
yeah,
Slick
exactly.
begged me to put it on social media. I was like, dude, I can't put that on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to put on social media as well, but I have to remain kosher for certain reasons, you know. And
I had one of those yesterday.
I watch your stuff from my outlet.
No, people think that I put a lot of stuff on social media. Y'all have no idea the stuff I don't put on social media.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that I can't because people will tell me stuff and I can't. If I say what happened or what's going on, they'll know who told me, and so sometimes I can't tell. So I tell Ryan and I tell everybody with our little clique, but I don't go out telling a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Fishtok, the Open. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that a little bit. That's coming up here at the end of October.
Yep.
That's been put on by Fishing Chaos again this year, right?
Yeah. We're going to limit it. Smith Lake Fish is really big, so it can hold 300 boats. We may cut it off at 250. I don't know, but the plan is to take 300 boats. We've got a sponsor that is doing a $65,000 truck. We're going to announce the size of fish that has to be caught that morning at takeoff. And if somebody catches that fish, Landers McClarty Chevrolet is giving away a $65,000 truck. And if you bought a vehicle from them in the last 2 years, you win an additional $25,000. Fisk gear, the sunglasses that Ryan and I are sponsored by, and I think you are too.
Yep, I'm with Fisk. Yep.
So they're doing a contingency deal where if you're wearing Fisk glasses, you get money. Yep. I'm still working stuff out with other people, but I didn't really want a ton of sponsors for this. I just wanted to do it with the money that was paid in and give out. And with Fishing Chaos, we've got, like, I had a meeting today that was like 4 hours, and we've been working on different tournament things for the last 2.5 years. And we actually secured the money for one that all I'll say is I never thought, in all my life, I've always said that Bass had the Bassmaster Classic, and that was the biggest thing ever. And I never thought anything could top it. I'll just say this is going to top it. Money-wise. Money-wise, it will. But we've been working on it for 2.5 years, and to be honest, it was going to take $1 million to say, okay, we can start. And today we got the $1 million. So as soon as all of that's done and we can announce it, it's going to be really big. But, we work on stuff all the time because the guy, I won't say his name yet, but the guy that helps me and is a big part of Fishing Chaos, he wants professional fishermen to get paid like professional athletes. He thinks that professional fishermen get screwed, and I'm saying it lightly compared to what he typically says. And he wants to change that, and we've been trying to figure out ways to change that. And I mean, for 2.5 years, this is all we've talked about, is doing different tournaments. And we've had 6 pros give us ideas of what they wanted. We've had meetings on every one of them. And to be honest with you, out of those 6, 4 of those tournaments are probably going to happen. And they're all pretty special. But it takes a lot. People don't realize what it takes to make a tournament go. I've got $1 million just to put the tournament on, just to put everything in action. Because what his deal was is I don't want to have to go get sponsors and ask for money. I want them to come to us, and so that's what we're trying to do. But there's not a lot of people out there that'll just say, "Here's $1 million, go make it happen." You know. So.
No, not at all.
Have you just? I know I talked to Zach a little bit, but have you talked to or announced what the Fish deal is going to be?
No,
or are you waiting on that?
They haven't sent me the. They sent me the money.
Okay.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
That's in the Fishtok account, and we're just waiting to see what they want to do as far as their contingency.
Yeah, I talked to Zach the other day a little bit because he was talking to me about it because he was asking if I was going to fish it, but unfortunately we'll be I think me and Doug will both be on Lanier.
Yeah.
For the Open, but
unfortunately, I heard eating on Lanier right now. I heard like mega.
Well, we're not allowed to get no information, but
I don't know anything. I just heard it.
I know they're always eating out there. You know, I found out some good stuff when I was down there, so. I'm excited for that one. I'm not so excited for this one coming up, but I'm excited for that.
What's the one you got coming up?
You follow Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah. End of September.
Yeah.
So
it's going to
be you.
It's going to be a
transitionary period. It's probably the worst time you could schedule a tournament. You know,
a bunch of running and gunning and junk fishing is what that'll
that's exactly what it's going to be.
The plan.
But you know, it gets tough in any big tournament like that where you got a lot of boats. Like in the Opens, like we had a 264 boat high school tournament the day we started practice, and then you give these guys 5 days of practice, dude. They're scavenging the whole freaking lake.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to tournament day, I mean the lake has been destroyed. You know.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the Bass Pro Tour gets 2 days. I think the elites get 3. 2 days of practice, I think that's plenty.
Yep.
And I think it helps you catch more fish during the tournament by doing that.
They're catching them up there at Champlain.
Yeah.
I mean, dude's like 19 pounds. You're thinking, well, 20 or whatever it was in the top 10, you got 19 something. You're like in 30th or something like that. I was like, wow.
Weights are always crazy up here in the north in the summertime. It's definitely the place to be.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we got to get both of you guys up here.
I know. You guys need to come up to St. Clair with me for a weekend. I know I've talked to Ryan a little bit about it, about getting Fisher up here. And, dude, it's crazy. We've been whacking, 20-pound bags constantly on St. Clair right now. I mean, it's a bad day if you're only catching 20.
I went to last year. Did I get muted again?
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
He's going out and coming back in.
Got a phone call again.
Yeah.
His phone rings like more than mine rings, and mine rings a lot.
Yeah, mine does ring a lot. But what I was saying, my son and I went with Jordan to Champlain last year, and we stayed for 8 days. And that was ridiculous.
Yeah. My house that burnt down, we're in the process of fixing that, and that's going to be ready to go by the end of the winter. So you guys should definitely come up, stay with me. I got a ramp that's a half mile from the house, and we can get Doug to come over, and we can have ourselves a little derby, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I told Fisher I was going to take him up there. I've never been out that far.
Yeah, or come up in late June, and we'll take him up to Traverse, and we'll go catch 5 and 6 pounders on beds and 25 foot of water sight fishing them.
Oh, he'd be in,
dude. It's crazy. You can sight fish them in 40 foot up there if you go to Torch. I'll sight fish brush piles all the time.
That's crazy.
And I took a dude up there last year and did that, but. Oh, Slick's muted again.
Slick, he's out again. Yeah, that Fishtok tournament, it's gonna be a fun event. For the money, you can't beat it.
Yeah, no.
Have a chance to win that much money.
I was disappointed. I mean, obviously you guys can't cater around everyone, but it kind of
Right.
sucked when I seen it was on the 28th, and I was like, man, I
Yeah.
was like, I really wanted to be there for that one. Like, I'd almost rather go fish that than than the NPFL. No, I'm kidding, but that would be a fun tournament out there, doing a team tournament or whatever. So
Yeah. And there's like I think there's 3 big events on Smith that month. No, one might be in November, first part of November. It's a high school event. But see, we got to be like, I'm trying to remember everything. We got the Fishtok. We've got a high school tournament right in that time frame. If we fish the Logan Park college tournament, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's crazy. That's a lot.
He said something about tell them I'm backstage.
Oh, there he is. Sorry, Slick.
No,
I didn't see.
good.
I
And then we
forgot to
got
add
the
you back in.
ABT championships on Weiss in October. And then there's a Bass Fest, which they have every year that pays $15,000 on Smith. I mean, there's like, if you lucked up and won 2 or 3 of them, you can make major bank that month.
Oh yeah. Heck, by signs lived. If you just win the Fishtok Open, you're going to be sitting pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
and are you fishing any more of the opens this year, Slick?
Yeah, I'm fishing Harris Chain.
Are you?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I'm planning on winning.
That's the only way to go into a tournament is planning on winning.
Hey, that ought to be juicy down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that should be a fun one.
Yeah.
So what do you got, Doug?
I don't know. I just figured we come on here and talk some fishing stuff.
Yeah.
So your name on Instagram is the Wheeler King, right, Slick?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got beat by Fisher the other night, so I guess I'll have to name him. He's been.
I told him, I said, you better not lose Fisher. He's going to give you heck.
Yeah. No, that
Fisher's a stick, man. I've seen all that kid's pictures and everything else, and
But he's won like $500 this week in Wildcat.
he's not even going to get a job. He's just going to go fish all the local stuff and take everyone's money.
So I had no idea of this, but my first NPFL event ever, I actually met Slick and his son, and he reminded me of that, and I like completely spaced that out of my mind. I had lost my wallet, and I went over and asked about that, and it was a big old cluster, but it was crazy figuring out it's a really small circle if you think about it and the people that are in it, and it's wild to think that you meet somebody years and years prior, and then all of a sudden they're here, and it's just a crazy small circle of people in the fishing industry.
Yeah, I don't even remember why we were there. Well, my camper stayed at Eufaula, and we would go down there all the time. And I remember that night you lost your wallet, and I was thinking, well, I hope he don't think we took it, because somebody had to take it, And then I remembered you saying you found it, but yeah, I remembered you telling me your story because I had asked you, about how you got to fishing and how you got to fishing the NPFL, and you told me. So I remembered all that. And then when you came to the Fishtok Frenzy, I thought it was you, but I wasn't sure. I kept thinking, is that the guy? And then later on, Lake and I got to talking about it, and Lake said, yeah, that's him. So I remembered it.
Well, I'm still around for now.
For now.
This is it's a tough game, this whole fishing deal, and
it is.
Both of you guys know that, and going into each year not knowing and having those unknowns is it's pretty difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a challenge, and just the business side of things and the fishing side of things is a huge challenge. So I think I'd probably be pretty bored if I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about that last night. Ryan was talking about the podcast that G-Man had done with Zaldane about, if you're going to do it, you got to have blinders on, and that's all you can focus on. And you can't worry about, well, maybe I need to do this and that. And we've told our kids, if you're going to go fish for a living, you need to be able to have an income to where you're not dependent on what you win.
Mhm.
You need to have an income before you make a cast. And that's really, really hard to do. You know, it takes knowing somebody, it takes having a big break, or just absolutely working your butt off to do
Mhm.
it. And, you know, I hear people all the time. Ryan and I are very defensive about G-Man when people say something about him never winning or not being good or whatever. What people don't understand, and Ryan can attest to this, Gerald is probably one of the hardest working people you will ever meet. Nonstop. His schedule is unbelievable. Okay.
Mhm.
We can call him anytime we want.
Oh, you muted yourself again, Slick.
Come back.
So Ryan, are you planning on fishing anything, or are you just gonna let Fisher do
Man,
his thing? Are you thinking about jumping in the opens next year, or some Toyotas, or just let him
probably
do his
not.
thing?
I'm probably going to I'm going to put Fisher in either 3 Toyotas or 3 Opens,
There you go.
just to get his feet wet and understand the concept behind it. See,
Yeah.
years ago, I got into the opens. I started fishing opens. I fished some Everstarts back then. I was running with Gerald, and then I had Fisher. So I made a decision to just back out of it.
Yep.
And I got out. I got a check in the open. I was in 6th. I think it was the second open I ever fished. I was in 6th place the first day. And I finally failed like 20th or something like that. But in the Everstart, I did decent. I got a check in it, and it's a long road, and I wasn't ready for it. As far as mentally, I was not ready. So that's what I've been really stressing to him and trying to work with him. And me and Slick both, we try to tell the kids it's mentally totally different. ABT stout, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you get to the opens or the MPFL or anything, you know, the Toyota, it's a total different animal. As far as boats, people knowing what's going on, and on top of you, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let him get into that a little bit and start getting his feet wet and just get a little bit of medicine of it. Because, I mean, you can get mentally, you can get whooped down and just quit. So I'm done. I'm going to go get me a job at Walmart. You know, I want to see my girlfriend, you know. So he needs to do it. If he's going to do it, if these kids or anybody's going to do it, they really need to do it at an early age if they have the ability to somebody back them and help them get going money-wise there, because it's mentally, it's tough. And if you have a wife and kids, it's really tough.
It sounds like, you know, a lot of people think it's all glorious, and, you know, it's not.
No.
And before I got the phone call talking about G, he's probably the hardest working person that we know. And so it takes away from, I have a lot of buddies that fish elites, that fish Bass Pro Tour, whatnot, that when they have a baby or they get married, you can see the fall off that year. Derek Remitz is one of them. You know, Derek Remitz finished 2nd or 3rd in Angler of the Year. He finished 2nd or 3rd in the Bassmaster Classic. He finished 2nd to KVD, I think, that one year. He got him a girlfriend. All right. And she wanted to travel with him everywhere. So instead of getting to the boat ramp at daylight, he would get to the boat ramp at 8. Well, she would take the truck, and then at noon, she wants to go eat. And so she comes back and gets him. Okay, now he got 4 hours of practice where he used to get 10 hours of practice. And so you could tell that one year his performance went down. But there's a lot of other people that I know that they have a baby, they get married, whatever, and it goes down. Well, you take what G does, okay, to be able to perform at all, doing what he does, because he has created a business out of bass fishing, okay? And I'm just saying right now, he's made way more money with that mouth than he has with a rod and reel.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say this, he's as good a fisherman as we know. Okay. So if G wasn't out there doing what he does with social media, with making money the way he does, and he had all of his time to focus on nothing but fishing, it would be different. And Ryan will tell you, we do not call him the week of a tournament. We do not text. We do not call. He does not call us. Okay. he ain't talking to us. That's all he concentrates on. And he's made a business life out of it. And, you know, we look at it and we say, well, KVD's the greatest ever, or, you know, or Jacob Wheeler's great, whatever. But I don't say it because we're friends with Gerald, but to me, he's one of the greatest fishermen ever because of what he's ever been able to do from a business aspect. And look, dude, he's made 20 Bassmaster Classics. Okay. So, you know, the consistency and the longevity is incredible. There's a couple of people that, you know, the list isn't out yet, but there's a couple of people that's not going to be on the Bass Pro Tour next year. And, you know, some of them have won events. Okay. So what's more important, to say you've won an event or to say you've done it for 22 years and made 20 Bassmaster Classics and made millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Who's the better fisherman? You know?
Yep. And I think that's part of what you were saying before is, you know, getting the kids involved, coming at it like it's a business. I mean, that's how I did it. And that's how I'm making ends meet, is I went at it as a business before I went at it as just wanting to fish. Right? And I think that's very important for young people to understand. They need to get those marketing classes. They need to understand social media marketing. They need to understand subliminal marketing. They need to study psychology, sociology, all of that stuff. And that's going to really help them excel once they decide they're going to make a business out of it. And then once they get the business going, obviously they can focus on the fishing a little bit more, but you got to have that income coming in before you can focus on the fishing, or you're going to be living out of your truck like me. So,
yeah, I can say it's definitely hard. Cause like, as you know, like I worked in the power companies. I didn't go to college, so I didn't do any of that stuff. And when it comes to marketing and stuff, Doug's definitely a lot better at it than I am. And I've been trying to get there. Luckily he's in my back pocket and I can call him whenever I want and ask for advice and stuff like that. But I definitely agree with him. Like I wish I had a social or whatever degree, marketing degree, business, something like that along that line to help out a little bit. I've actually been considering going back to school and doing some videographer classes to take my social media game to the next level. So, Jake's lure joint. Yeah, we'll go answer a couple questions real quick. Jake's lure joint wants to know what your guys' thoughts on the NPFL are. You see me put it up there for a minute, but what do you guys think of it?
I think there's a place for the NPFL, and knowing what I know about what's going to go on with the NPFL for next year, I think it's going to take a leap forward. Y'all all know what happened with the championship and all that stuff. I think that set it back some, but you know, I talked to Luke Duncan quite a bit, and Luke thinks that it's going to take a step forward next year. But I think it's a great thing for, you know, for people to have an avenue to fish professionally. Because basically we have MLF and we have the Elite Series.
Yep.
What a lot of people don't understand is that you can be what I call a professional fisherman. I call a professional fisherman anybody that fishes for a living. Okay. If you're a guide, to me, you're a professional fisherman because you do it for a living. And there's a lot of us, or a lot of people, that make more money than people on the Elite Series or the MLF. So you don't have to be on the Bass Pro Tour or the Elite Series to make a living fishing. But there's definitely a place for the NPFL, and to me, it's a great thing. The issue for the NPFL to me is they need to pull some sponsors. They need to be able to have some content. And what that means is they need cameras.
Yep.
Because with cameras, you bring eyeballs. With eyeballs, you bring sponsors.
Yeah. I think me and Doug's had that conversation a couple of times and all about things that we think the league could do better. And obviously it starts with hopefully, picking lakes better at the time of year when they're at their peaks, because we're at the point in the league where, in my opinion, I think that the bigger bags is what's going to bring sponsors. Obviously, I'm not. This ain't my job, but I think if you can get 2 or 3 tournaments a year where everyone's pulling limits, it's going to help out sponsorships a bunch, rather than some of these events that we've went to where it's been kind of tough, where really only top 5 are catching limits every day.
Yeah. And it's hard, for the MPFL, and a lot of people think that somebody can come in with just a lot of money and have a tournament trail. Well, let me explain something to you. People that's got a lot of money tend to like to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you can't, you got to have something that's sustainable, and you got to figure out a way for it to be sustainable. And that takes sponsors to do that. And it takes eyeballs to do that. The way you get sponsors is to have the people watching it. And so, like you said, they got to have a reason to watch.
Yeah. I think Mitch is on the right track with that.
Yeah.
I think we need to be catching big bags and have a couple smash fests per year.
We need to come up north more.
It's a perfect schedule, right? You're going to have a couple that are not going to be a smash fest. There's going to be a couple. I hate the term grinders, but there's going to be a couple in there when you make a schedule, because you're just going to land on it wrong. It's just how it is. But a lot of that I think could be mitigated, and it's all about just, there's a reason why Bassmaster is successful and MLF is successful. It's because they kind of chase around the spawn and they land on these, it starts in the south and then it goes north to the summer. And there's a reason for that. It's because you can chase those giant bags around, 25-pound bags everywhere. And it's not something that's, it's special, right? But when it takes 20 pounds to get in like the top 70, right? Like that's a freaking smash fest. And I think we have a couple of those, and things will definitely get some traction. It'll help anyway,
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if we go up north more than one time a year, it'll help out a bunch too.
Yeah, when I was younger, I'll tell you how I used to think. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of true too. I used to hate BASS, and I did because I used to say, them guys aren't real fishermen, they're bank runners. All you got to do is now this is 15, 20 years ago, BASS. All you had to do was be a good bank runner, because 99% of the time they were fishing during the spawn. They were fishing when the fish were on the bank. Well, I'm an offshore guy, so I loved it when FLW come about, and I got to watch Randy Haynes go and smash them on shell beds out in the middle of the river. And I was like, hey, FLW's got better fishermen than BASS. Now, part of that's true, and I'll tell you why. They used to have 250, 260 boats in a tournament. Okay, it's a lot harder to win It's harder to win a 264 boat professional tournament than it is to win a 108 boat professional tournament.
Yep.
So I used to say, hey, I think these guys may be better. Now you had the stars on bass that, I'm not saying they were better than them, but I'm saying as a whole field. And, now because of live scope, we go to different lakes now because of different styles of fishing.
Yep.
But now it's kind of opened the doors for those bank runners, those John Cox, those Keith Pochets, Cliff Crochets, the guys that fish shallow. Andy Morgan, to me, before FLW or before MLF changed their format, Jordan's always told me that he thought Andy Morgan, Andy Morgan was one of the best fishermen on the tour. Okay, but we never saw that because he's the best flipper on tour. Fletcher Shyrock, one of the best flippers. Okay, but when you're going all you can catch, that format does not fit a flipper.
Yeah, that's a big fish technique.
Absolutely, and so I think that hurt. And when they went to 5 fish, you kind of seen those guys come back. Like Chris Lane won the first event this year. Chris Lane's another flipping guy. And I think MLF hit a home run this year when they changed the format. And that very first tournament of the year, Chris Lane wins it like in the last 30 seconds or whatever. Dude, they hit a home run
Definitely the right move.
And then they screwed their own selves up the butt throughout the year by doing stupid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool to see Chris win that one. I know I grew up in Lakeland, which is just obviously like half an hour from Kissimmee. So we used to run into Chris and Bobby all the time because they're from Lakeland too, and they were always putting in at Great Hammock down there. My dad was the service tech for all of Great Hammock pretty much. He had his own mobile marine business. So it was really cool to see him win that one. We used to watch him out there all the time, and I learned so much from those two. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. Like that one was, he won it right there by Brahma Island and stuff like that. I was watching. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. This is gonna happen. Like he's gonna catch a fish right here in the last couple minutes. So
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, just to see the emotion on his face when he won that one. That was probably one of the coolest ones I've seen all year.
But you talk about NPFL. I think that marketing could be better for NPFL, and I say that because, dude, I'm all into fishing. All I do is fishing. So everything on my Facebook, my Instagram, my TikTok, all my social media is fishing. But the only stuff I see from the NPFL is stuff that y'all post.
Yeah.
And my son keeps up with it, but he keeps up with every single tournament there is.
Yeah.
So for people that are not in the fishing industry, there has to be a marketability. And bringing Fat Cat on, I thought was a genius idea. And I'll tell you why. Duck Dynasty had 10 million viewers. I'm just throwing a number out there, okay? Out of 10 million viewers, 9,995,000 never duck hunted in their life. So everybody always says, well, fishing can't grow because there's not that many people fishing, whatever. Okay, there ain't that many people duck hunting either. And I'm not saying create a reality TV show, but what I am saying is market it and give them something to watch. And I thought Fat Cat was a good addition, to that, to help that.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Phenomenal addition. He already had a huge following, and just his attitude, his positive attitude all the time is impeccable, and it's a very, very good marketing tool for the NPFL to have.
Yeah. And Luke.
Yeah, Fat Cat was.
I don't know if you've ever heard Luke's story of how he became to work for NPFL, and I don't know if I'm supposed to share the story, but he was kind of at odds with them, and they called him up to be a host, be a commentator. So Luke's a good one too. I mean, he's got a following, and Fat Cat does. That helps, but I think the marketing could probably be a little better for that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think posting some people a little bit more and spreading the wealth around a lot of your social media guys like me and Doug. There's only a handful of us in the league, and in my opinion, they should be utilizing us as much as possible. I think it would help grow it a lot more too, especially Doug. Like Doug is such a big social media presence for the league, and I think it would be good for them to obviously post him a little bit more. But
yeah, I think the NPFL has been, if it wasn't for them coming out, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So I'll forever be grateful for that, and it was really between that and fishing the opens. I was to a point in my life, I had made a 5-year plan where I was going to try and make the transition to fish full time, we'll call it. And it got to that, happened in less time than that. It was about 3.5 to 4 years. I got everything situated, and it just kind of, everything worked out to where I sold my house. And Slick, I already told him this in the campground that day, probably. But, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, and I wouldn't have learned the things that I've learned as far as marketing and social media and things like that. I've kind of grown with the league, and it's a really good tool for us to grow as anglers as well, because we go to a lot of different places that not everybody goes to, and there's not a lot of information about these places online too. So it forces you to be a better angler, I think, or try to be one. In my case this year, I've had, obviously a pretty rough year, but There's a lot of other factors involved with that, but
Yeah.
I'll forever be pretty grateful for, the NPFL giving me a chance to jump on board. And
Yeah, I agree. I think that was probably one of the most enticing things for me joining the league was that a lot of the stuff they pick, these different hole in the wall lakes that, I mean, a lot of people have never heard of that are really great fisheries that can produce these monstrous bags. It's just timings have just been a little off this year. K Money Outdoors on TikTok said, I vote for Little Riddle and slick commentary exposure would skyrocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell y'all something about Little Riddle that a lot of people don't know. He's a genius. Okay. His IQ is a lot higher than people think. And I've gotten to know him. He came here yesterday and we went and ate lunch. But he portrays himself as, this dumb redneck on TikTok, and that's not at all what he is. I promise you.
No, you can tell, from people that take this seriously as a job, like social media and just having a presence online. You can tell that the people who have it figured out and the people that don't. And yeah, for sure.
I'm wearing one of his shirts right now that he got banned from TikTok over.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, so are your plans for next year, Slick? I mean, are you and Ryan are you doing anything like the Opens or Toyotas again?
I'll tell you, ever since, so I have a business, but I have somebody that runs it. And I made a decision early in the year that I'm going to make a living fishing. And it's a lot easier to do when your bills are paid, right? Yeah. When you can go a long time without making money. So I'm able to say no to sponsors when a lot of other people would have to take that deal. And so I'm able to say, hey, I'm not going to take a sponsor unless it's something I believe in and that I think I can promote. But, I just got monetized on TikTok 3 weeks ago. So I make a little money from that. But since I've started and decided, hey, I'm going to make a living fishing, I don't get to fish as much. I've been to the boat ramp this year 3 times that I never put my boat in the water. I'd get there and I'd be on the phone for 4 hours. And it's ever since, especially ICAST, I'm on the phone, meetings all the time, and people don't realize to make it in the fishing industry, it is a business, and you have to work at it all the time. And so I have an offer. I have a sponsor that pays for all of my opens. They give me $60,000 to for expenses and all that for next year, if I want to do that. But I don't know that I'm going to have time, because now that I've started the tournament thing, I'm having to spend a lot of time doing that. I'm going to fish the opens. I may just fish one division, but look, my only dream, I don't fishing professionally is not my main dream. Okay. Or fishing the elites. That's not a dream of mine. Fishing the Bassmaster Classic is.
Yeah.
So unfortunately you have to win one of those to go to the Classic. So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But Lake fishes, but now he goes to he has virtual school. And to be honest with you, Lake doesn't really want me boat captaining him anymore. He gets that, you win because of your daddy, you win because you got waypoints and all that. And what a lot of people don't know, he gets chastised by other kids, even adults. You wouldn't believe the adults on TikTok that when he wins says things. But last year he called me up, and I had a tournament on Wheeler, and he had the Mississippi State Championship. It was a 2-day tournament on Ross Barnett. We've never been to Ross Barnett. And he came to me and he said, Daddy, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't want you to go. And I said, what? He said, well, you go ahead and fish your $10,000 tournament on Wheeler, and I want to go by myself. I want to do it on my own. And I said, you sure? He said, you're going to want to fish offshore. He said, I've studied, and he does. He watches, he knows every tournament that's ever been everywhere, who won, all that stuff. He said, I've done the analytics, and he said, people fishing shallow on Ross Barnett in 3-day events have always made it through the second day, and they didn't have a third day. He said, my event's 2 days. I think I can win shallow. I said, well, then I for sure don't want to go. So he goes, and he ends up getting, he takes Brianna as his boat captain. So not only is he, you know, nothing against women, but he's taking him a girl to boat captain him. You know, of course, she can catch them. So they go down there, and after day one, they're in third. And day two, they call me on FaceTime, not on FaceTime, just call me on speakerphone, and he catches one. And he says, oh, it's a 5-pounder. And I already know what they got. So I'm thinking, if he catches a 5, this is over. Well, then they lied to me. It was a 2-pounder. So I'm talking to him, and a few minutes later, I hear the braid singing, and they catch one, and they're going crazy. And I said, y'all, you're messing with me again. I gotta see FaceTime. They turn it on FaceTime, and it's not a 5-pounder, it's a 6. And so I put it on mute, and I looked at my partner, and I said, he just won it. He just won the Mississippi State Championship. There's no question. Well, I'm 4 hours away. I can't even go to the weigh-in. And so they had me on FaceTime during the weigh-in, and I got to watch it. And you wouldn't believe, after he won that, how many people still commented, Daddy's waypoints, Daddy put you on them. And so it's kind of got him to the point to where he doesn't want to fish high school anymore. He said, I'd rather go get my butt kicked in a BFL, and at least I did it on my own, and I don't have to hear anybody's mouth. You know? So he's 16 now. So, you know, I'm going to let him do what he wants to do. But he wants me to fish the opens. But, you know, here's the thing. It's hard to make a living fishing.
Yep.
You can make a living in the fishing industry.
Yep.
But making a living fishing is really hard. So I'm kind of straddling the fence right now of what I'm going to do. And you brought up something about Doug and about y'all being the social media with MPFL. So I'm just going to say it. You got to have professionals and big names for the legitimacy of a product. However, I don't know of anybody, maybe 2 or 3 guys, that's going to work harder or get more views for a product than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not just being me. I'm talking about social media guys. Because for us guys, we're hungry for the money. Okay, we don't make $300,000 a year fishing. So if we get a sponsor, we're going to work our butt off for that sponsor.
Yeah.
And now you see, and I won't name the names of the companies, but there's 2 major companies that they increased their budget by 100% for influencers. They're going after influencers. They're going after social media people because they're seeing that. There's a company right here in North Alabama. I won't call their name. They've cut all but 1 pro. And they said, hey, we want social media guys. That's where our views come from. Yep. I did a video of Shelton's yesterday or day before. It's got 500,000 views. Okay. I'm not going to say how much money he made in 24 hours, but it's more money than I make in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't even intend to do it. It was just one of them that hit, and all of a sudden, you know, everybody sees it. And so social media has changed the game. And I've told my son, I've told Fisher, if you're going to fish professionally, you've got to have a social media presence. You've got to have a good one.
Yeah, me and one of my buddies had a talk about that the other day. He was asking me, he was like, so what do I got to do for social media or for what do I got to do to get sponsors like what you and your Doug and all the other guys have? I was like, you got to be a social media guy first. And he's like, he's like, well, so-and-so doesn't have a social media and they're getting this amount of money. And I was like, well, I said, to be all honest, I said, you've won. I said, what do you have that ties your name to anything? I said, other than a couple local derby wins. I said, other than that, I said, you don't have nothing. I said, this guy has a couple MPFL wins, a couple opens, high opens wins. I said, you don't have anything. I said, you need to be a social media guy first and then a tournament angler second. I said, you're not going to get any deals from all of your social media stuff or your tournament stuff. I said, people don't want tournament anglers. Just the tournaments are more for me and you anglers, because we like to compete, versus the sponsorships at this point. They really don't care too much about that stuff.
No. And these, you had mentioned earlier about the Wheeler King thing. So that was kind of a deal between me and Jordan about getting a tag. He got back to back. And I said, if he got back to back, I'd get Wheeler King. And so Craig's the one that did it in the Fish Talk Frenzy, the shell bed guide, Wheeler King. So I just embraced it, but now let me say this: when you got Wheeler King on your tag and you fish a tournament on Wheeler, you better win. And when you don't win, you get to hear about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's funny when I get beat, if I finish second or third in a tournament, the next week somebody's parking in my parking spot, But it's I just embraced that. But there's a big difference in winning on your home lake. And Cliff Crochet said this last night on our show. People ask, when do I know if I'm ready, or how do I know if I'm ready? Okay, if you're winning on your home lake and you're getting checks, I'm talking about all the time. If you go and you fish 3 or 4 tournaments, you don't get a check, I can go and tell you ain't ready. But then if you go to the BFLs or you go to ABAs and you're consistently getting checks, you're consistently up there in the top 10, top 5, move on to something else. And it's not about winning, okay? My BFL win is the greatest win of my life, okay? I've got top 10s in opens. I finished second in a Toyota series one time because I got a lake penalty. I got a 4-pound lake penalty the final day. I've got a lot of big wins in my life, but that BFL was the most important. And everybody said, why is that? Man, I cried. I mean, that's all I wanted. And everybody said, why do you want to win a BFL so bad? I said, because of all those top 10s over there, I've never won one. I got 3rd, 4th, 5th. I got all those. And I'm fishing against the best there is on that lake. You're fishing against all the local hammers. And so I just want to win a BFL. And I never get to fish them. And it just so happened that, last year, one got canceled. And it got moved to a Sunday. And I had a tournament on Saturday. So I called and got in it the last minute. And I ended up winning it. And that was the best. That was the best, but I was fishing BFLs and I would always do really well. If I didn't finish in the top 10, I was pissed off. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm ready to go to the next level, right? I'm doing good in these BFLs, but the problem was the BFLs were on Gunnersville, Wheeler, Pickwick. They're on my home stuff. They're on Smith. So then I decided to go to the Toyota series. I think I finished 117th on Pickwick. Like, it was demoralizing. And the next one was on Wheeler. So I was like, okay, I'm going to fish this one. And if I don't win it, I'm done. Because my kids were fixing to start playing sports and all that. And I was sponsored by Omega Jigs back then. I had the money to go fish professionally. And at that time, all you had to have was a Ranger boat to fish FLW. You had a Ranger boat, they're letting you in. So I went, and there was no way I was losing this tournament. And I got a late penalty. And so I came in, and the guy that was winning it, he come back there and he said, you got him, didn't you? And I said, mm-hmm. He said, can I go look at him? And we're in line to go to Walmart. We're in the police escort line. He walks back there. He comes back by me. He's crying like a baby. He's 47 years old, okay? I go up there. I said, man, what's wrong? He said, Slick, you don't do this for a living. I said, no. He said, this is the only thing I've done since I was 18 years old. He said, my wife's got cancer. He said, I'm filing bankruptcy Monday morning if I don't win this tournament. I don't mean come in second. I mean win it. He said, I'm going to lose everything I got. I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, well, God works in mysterious ways. And he said, why? I said, because I got a 4-pound late penalty. He said, I don't want to win that way. I said, hey, it's not your choice. And so I get on the phone. I pull out. I call my wife. And she's like, oh, my God, I'm going. Why are you calling me? Are you going to win? Are you going to win? I said, God, I hope not. And she said, what? And I told her what happened. And she said, God, I hope you don't win. And so this guy ends up winning, and I won't call his name because I don't want to embarrass him anyway, but he still fishes professionally today. And, you know, it was just one of the things that my kids were fixing to start playing ball. And so I had to make a decision. If I go fish professionally, which I had the money to do, I had the sponsors to do, I'm never going to coach my kids in anything they do. I'm not going to be there when they have something going on at school. I'm not going to be able to coach them. I'm not going to be able to do all those things. And so I quit. For 4.5 years, I quit. And all I did was coach baseball, basketball, football, softball, whatever they were playing. And I built this big facility. I had a basketball court, volleyball court, 3 batting cages, a golf simulator, you name it, I had it. And the day I finished it, I was doing hitting lessons and whatnot. My kids come to me together, and I knew something was up. And my daughter said, we need to talk to you. And she's the one that'll just say whatever. And I said, what's wrong, baby? She goes, we don't want to play anymore. I said, what do you mean you don't want to play anymore? Well, Lake's not going to tell you, but he don't want to play baseball. I don't want to play softball. We're done. I said, okay. So 2 days later, I went and bought another boat. And Lake had never fished. Okay. He didn't go me. And April said, you're going with him. You're going with your daddy tomorrow, no matter what. So he goes fishing with me. We go to Smith Lake, and he's working his top water, and he's working it all the way to the boat. You know, and I'm just fussing. Son, we're at Smith Lake. They can see for a mile. You ain't going to catch nothing. Bringing it all the way to the boat. And I no more got that out of my mouth. And he catches a 3.5-pound spot. And after he caught that fish, he became obsessed. And so we transitioned from daddy's coaching baseball and all these sports to, okay, we're going to go into fishing. And so that's how it ended up with him. And, you know, he doesn't like the way I fish. I'm an offshore guy, and he's a dirt dauber.
Yeah.
So we fish totally different. He went to Gunnersville today, and when he got back, I went out and looked in the boat, and there was 2 flipping sticks and 2 frogs, and that's all he had. You know, so he fishes differently than I do, but it works for him. So,
Yeah.
You know, and like with him and Fisher, they both go to virtual school now, so they can get their work done in a couple of days, and you know, they can do their work on weekends, whatever. They can do.
Oh, you muted again.
There you go.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I didn't know that about Fisher, and obviously I knew Slick had backed off of fishing for a while for the kids, and I had heard that story. I think I forgot when he told it. He had talked about it a little bit, but about him with that Toyota, I had heard it once before. But yeah, it's crazy to think that that's the way you got to lose, and like you said, God works in mysterious ways.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. You know, I wouldn't take it back for anything in the world because I've never missed anything my kids have done, and you know, people make fun of me because the way I am with Jordan. I mean, I sort of lived that life through Jordan, and hey, if I'm living my life through Jordan Lee, I'm living a good one. You know, I remember him winning his second classic. We pulled over on the interstate, and we were listening to it. And I mean, we were all crying, you know, on the side of the interstate, him winning. But, you know, Jordan's one of those guys that he was straight focused on fishing growing up. Man, y'all need to have him on one night. Let him tell some stories about things he used to do. There's a lake close to his house, but it's about a mile through the woods, and he would drag his flat bottom through the woods to this lake to fish. And I mean, it didn't matter. That's all he wanted to do. And he would call me. I remember him calling me one day, and he said, "Hey," he said, "where's that place you told me it's got that spring in it? You can catch them big ones." I said, "My gosh, Jordan," I said, "the high today's 32 degrees." I said, "It's going to be froze over." He said, "I want to go." So I told him where it was. And he walks through these briars and thickets and whatnot. And he goes back there fishing. And he would call me about places, that you could only get like a canoe or something in. And he would go fish them. And I mean, that's how he didn't have a dad that fished. He learned it all pretty much on his own. And Matt kept playing baseball through high school, and Jordan just fished. That's all he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I know me and Doug had talked about, because I think we both have Jordan's number from the Fishtok frenzy last year. We talked about texting him. I was like, I don't know. I was like, we both talked about, like, we were like, I don't know how he'd respond to us just randomly texting him.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. But he was one that we talked about that we'd like to have on and all, because he's got a lot of cool stuff, and especially with him just winning St. Clair and stuff. Like, I know the area he was in. There's not a lot of people that know about that spot over in Canada, and it's a small area. I mean, it's tiny, but like we were out there a couple weeks ago, and I hooked into one of the biggest smallmouth I've ever hooked into. It fought like the 6.5 pounder I caught in the Detroit River in 40 foot of water and current, but it was in the lake. I mean, it was every bit of 7-8 pounds. I can almost guarantee it. And just pulled the hook, got a bad hook set in it. It just happens sometimes. It wasn't meant to be. But he's definitely one that we've talked about that we'd like to have on.
That's him that keeps calling that makes me go mute. He before that tournament, he called me and he said, "Hey, come over here. I got an idea." And so I go over, and he had got this trolling motor from Lawrence that was like 8 inches longer, than a regular trolling motor. And we put this big old thing on, and we put it on 4 bolts. And I got the drill, fixing to drill another hole. And he goes, "You don't think that's enough?" I said, "You know where you're going, right? Like, maybe we should put 8. And so we end up bolting his whole front panel that had screws in it. We put bolts in it too, because, you didn't know what you're going to get into. But he told me when he got there, he said, I'm not going to make a cast in practice. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "The season opens in Canada the day we start." He said, "So I'm just going to take this AquaView and go look at them."
Yeah.
And what was crazy was, like, Jordan's, I don't know if you call him humble or just he likes to lie a lot. When he's on them, he's going to always say, I don't know. And that's what he had told me. And he calls me the night before the next day, and he goes, "I'm on him." He said, "I'm talking about giant smallmouth." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I go to watching that morning, he ain't catching crap. And they had moved, and then his first one was like a 5.8, and he ended up getting on them. But there's no telling how many AquaViews he sold over that. And it wasn't AquaView, I promise you. But yeah, I get to hear all the good, juicy stuff and learn a lot from him, especially fishing with him. It's, I told the story not long ago. I had won. We have tournaments on Wheeler in the spring on Saturdays and Sundays. And out of 8 tournaments, I had won 8 in a row and never weighed in less than 22 pounds. And he comes up, we're going to go fishing, and we're idling out. And he goes, "Where are we going?" I said, "Where do you think we're going?" And he goes, I don't want to go catch them like that. I said, dude, what? It'd been raining a lot, you know. He said, let's go fish you seed holes. Let's go fish like some old stuff you ain't fished in years, like just drains and off the wall stuff. I said, Jordan, I kind of like to win. Like I
Right.
I kind of have a reputation to oppose. He goes, let's go do that. I said, okay. So we go. We're in his aluminum boat, and we go. And the first place we come up to, he skips up it under this drainage, goes all the way under the road, and he skips further than I could in 50 tries. And he sets a hook, and it's a 3.5 pounder. And he flops it in the bottom of the boat, and I go to put it in the live well. And there must have been 200 water bottles, Coke cans, you name it. He ain't never used that live well. And so I'm divvying trash out, you know, and next thing I know, I hear something, and I look, and he's unflopped another 3-pounder down there. I'm like, I ain't got the live well running. And so we hopped around that day fishing drains, and I think we had 26 something at the end of the day. And it was places I haven't fished in years.
That's awesome.
And we pull up to this one drain, and I hadn't fished it in 5 or 6 years. And I told him, I said, listen, the only thing you can catch them on is crankbait. That's all you can catch them on. So I pull up there with a crankbait, and I'm throwing it, and I ain't got a bite. He fires a jig up there, 5.5. I said, well, that was luck. And so he gets it in. I'm throwing that crankbait, you know. He flips that jig back up there and catches a 6. I just shook my head. So just the way he fishes and the way he thinks, you can't even describe it. I mean, and, he always says, I'm just going to go fishing. And by gosh, that's what he does. He just goes fishing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us put too much effort into thinking about what we need to be doing rather than just going fishing sometimes. Yeah. And I'm more guilty of that myself than I think anybody I know. And get caught up in not so much the dock talk, but in my own head telling myself what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And I just need to go out and chuck a jig around because that's really how I learn and what I'm good at, you know?
Yeah, I'd agree with it. I actually did the same thing all year up until this last Saginaw event, and I went back and doing what I know, and that's out deep live scoping. I mean, obviously at Patman, I found a school like that, but I made the run all the way. I mean, it was a run. And if it wasn't for my boat issues on the first day, I mean, stuff happens and all, it was my fault and everything else. Like it was completely just things that just happen out of the blue. It's part of fishing the Great Lakes. We actually I was on really, really, really good fish. And that was the first term I had fun. I was like, you know what? We're just going to start going fishing every time. I was like, we're done with looking at all the stuff. We're going to go back and do what we know. And that's all we're going to do. And all.
Yeah. I mean, think about how many people, you know, we got that shirt that says I won practice. How many times have you went and caught them in practice and then you don't catch them in a tournament? And it's like you go back to do the exact same thing. You get things in your head. And sometimes it's better to just go practice and find them. And you got to have the confidence to do it. And that's the key thing is these elite guys, they have the confidence to go find fish. Yeah. And we get caught up on where we caught them in practice. We get caught up on history. And I think that's why it's so hard sometimes to win a big tournament on your home lake. You know, you get caught up in history.
Yep. I can say that's what I know me and Doug talked about it because Doug had actually fished where I found these fish the first day of practice. And in between that second and that third day when I showed up out there, they rolled up. And I mean, in practice, I only made 6 to 7 casts, maybe 8 in practice, and had 18 pounds. Like I called my dad and I was live scoping them in like 45 foot. And I was like, Dad, watch this. And I FaceTimed it not on that big giant MBT screen. I flipped that freaking drop shot down there, the 1 ounce weight on it, and it flew right past. And they chased it up, chased it down. And before it hit the bottom, I was setting the hook, and he's like, "Oh my God!" And that last one I caught was a 4 to 4.5 pounder. I just put it back in the water before anyone could see it, and it had one bigger than that following it up, and he's like, "Oh my god!" I mean, it's just crazy how fast them fish change, how fast they move up, and them largemouth are the same way. And everyone thinks that they don't move too much, but they move a bunch, especially
God.
offshore like that. I know I never expected to catch largemouth in 45 foot, and I started getting really good at it here in the last month or two since I've been doing this full time. I quit my job and everything else, and I've been chasing these largemouth up here in that 50 to 100 foot range, kind of like they do down there in Smith and stuff like that. Like I did it down on Cherokee and stuff like that, and just never applied it up here. Now I've been doing it up here, and this is blast. Like these fish don't get touched out
No,
here.
That's the crazy thing. You know, people think live scope's cheating and all that. Live scope just tells us what we didn't know about things.
Yeah.
And Lake called me last Thursday. I was supposed to take a guy, and we were going to Wheeler. And I hadn't been to Wheeler in a month. I guess that was 3 weeks ago. We hadn't been to Wheeler in a month at that time. And I said, well, I'm going to take him to Wheeler. Well, Lake goes down to Smith and just whacks them, 30, 40 foot deep, and calls me and is like, you need to go to Smith. So I'm like, okay. He tells me what he caught him on. I thought, hey, it's going to be easy. If he caught 40, I'm catching 80. So I get down there, and at like 8:30, I got 5. I got 2 overs. And so I'm like, shit, I got to call him. So I called him. And as soon as he answered, he didn't say, hello, what you doing? He goes, can't figure out how to catch him, can you? And I said, don't be smart. I said, why can't I catch him? And he told me what to do. And he explained to me something about live scoping that I had no idea. Okay. And I'm going to give the secret out right here. Y'all may know, everybody may know. I may have been the only dumbass that didn't know. Okay. He said, when you throw it past them, he said, how far past them are you throwing it? I said, well, sometimes I'm throwing 20, 30 feet past them. He said, no. He said, don't ever throw over 6 feet past them. He said, when you throw past them, are they coming up toward it? I said, no. He said, you got to figure out which way they're facing. He said, if you don't know which way the fish is facing, they're not gonna come up to it. So what I was doing was I was throwing past them when they were facing me, and my bait was dropping and they wasn't coming up on it, so I just reeled it in. Well, so then I started throwing close to them in different directions, and you would finally get a reaction out of them. And then there was a certain way you had to get them to bite. And after he told me, we caught like 40, and it was unbelievable, but that's why people think just because you see them on live scope, you're going to catch them.
Yeah.
It's not true. Live scope will hurt your feelings.
Oh, yeah.
I did that to my dad this weekend. He did the same thing. He had never really played with live scope too much, and I took him out and did. We were doing the same thing. He's like, this is cheating. It's like having a camera. I said, just because you can see them, you can't catch them. I said, how many fish have you caught today? And he just, that's not the point. And went back to doing what he was doing in the back of the boat. And it's fun. I mean, that's one thing I've learned is the same thing. Like you have to figure out which way they're facing. Sometimes you got to hit them on the head. Sometimes you can't hit them on the head. You have to be off or short, or like the river fish in St. Clair on the Detroit River and stuff. Like I throw 6XDs on them a bunch, and a lot of the times they'll sit on the backside of them boulders. And if you crank it with or against the current, it gets down a little bit deeper, but they'll wait until it gets like 30 foot past them, and then they'll shoot up after it. And there's just stupid little things you learn like that with it, that it's just amazing how much of a better fisherman like it makes you just by watching it. Like you don't even have to catch them, just watching it.
Well, before Lowrance, Lowrance came out with their first live scope, and it was garbage. And then they come out with the next one. Well, they had sent it to Jordan. And so I had Garmin all this time. He had never fished with live scope. And he called me one day and said, you need to take me and show me because I'm fixing to get it, and I want to know. So we go to Smith Lake. We made 10 videos of us counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of them coming up and getting it on top. And he's like, I had no idea what I was missing out on. Because at that time you had Michael Neal, Jacob Wheeler, all these guys are killing it with live scope. Yep. And these other guys are at a disadvantage because at that time, if you had Humminbird or Lowrance, you couldn't use Garmin. And so when the Active Target came out, oh my God, that changed his life. I mean, it was crazy.
You see old Nick Nasty in here talking a bunch.
Yeah.
He loves him some
I can
Slick.
only imagine.
He said if anyone wants to talk, you're going to have to raise your hand or Slick gets long-winded. Oh, yeah, he's a character, man. You guys together just absolutely kill it.
Well, let me tell you something. I've fished with a lot of people in my life, and I don't know if Nick's the best I've ever fished with, but I've done the best with him. And he has taught me. I'm 10 years older than he is. He'll tell everybody that. But he's taught me probably more than anybody about fishing. And before he quit fishing, a lot of people around here don't know, they talk about the guys that are good in the current and whatnot. But if you got on a lake that had a dam and it had current flowing through it, okay, he didn't need to practice. He didn't need to do all that. He's just one of them people that just knows. And we would go to Wilson or Pickwick, and Nick is the most arrogant person in the world to me. To everybody else, he's this humble, nice guy. Everybody loves Nick. Okay. And I've told this story several times. We were on our way down to Wilson, and they had this tournament trail that the first time on that lake, it would be from daylight till 2:30. The next time it would be from 4 to midnight, something like that. And we fished this trail. It's called Southern Anglers. We fished it for 2 years and never lost a tournament. Now they went Pickwick, Wilson, Wheeler, Gunnersville. We never lost a tournament. Okay. That tells you how good he is. So we're on our way down to Wilson. And I said, what are we going to do? He looks over at me, he goes, we'll have it 1 before dark. I said, you been down here? You been down here? He said, yeah. I said, when did you come down here? Now, this is like May, right? He said, September. I said, oh, my God, we're not going to catch a fish. All right, we start at 4 o'clock. The guy texts me at 4:21. I'll never forget this. What y'all got? At 4:21. I text him back at 4:21. 21 pounds. And we started at 4 o'clock. Every time we went to Wilson or Pickwick, we did not practice. We had not been down there. And we won every single event. It was just incredible. So what he could do in the current, and not even just the current, I mean, everywhere he went, I mean, he figured some stuff out on Gunnersville, like in a place that I wouldn't even have thought to fish, but he was good for sure. I mean, I dominate him now. He'll never be back as good as I am now, but he was good. He's a has-been.
He just said, somebody stop this guy. Oh, that's funny. I mean, that's crazy though, to think for 2 years that you guys never lost an event.
Now that was in that trail.
Yeah.
We lost tournaments. But
oh yeah. But still, to be that dominant in a series, it's crazy.
He came to fish a tournament on Wheeler one time, and I always talk about him being late. So the tournament takes off, and my rods are standing up on the walkway, and Nick's nowhere to be found. And so he gets there 30 minutes after everybody else has taken off. And this particular day, I had to have these waypoints. They weren't in his GPS. And I said, I got to put these waypoints in because I had found some fish in a specific area. And we're idling out, and I'm putting waypoints in, and there's this guy over here just jacking them one after another. Nick said, well, that's on your waypoint. He's catching your fish. I said, no, they're over here. That's just another waypoint. And that day we caught, I think we had around 26 or 27 pounds that day. And we only caught 7 fish. I mean, people used to think we whacked them. We didn't. We just got lucky a lot of times. And we caught them one time. I told the story on TikTok. We got one crankbait in the boat. And the only reason it was in the box on a rod. And we go around this place, it had flooded, and he sets a hook. He throws that crankbait, he sets a hook, and the line breaks at the rod. He said, "That's a big one." I said, "That's a freaking rock. You ain't no dead. You're an idiot." I said, "You're an absolute idiot. That wasn't a fish." And so we're arguing. 5 minutes later, and you'll figure out how I know it weighed 385. This 385 largemouth jumps with 40 foot of line in its mouth. So we spend the next 45 minutes casting at this line. Every now and then it jump. I finally hooked the line. I said, "Nick, I got it." And I'm reeling it up. And right before it gets to us, it was fluorocarbon. It goes back down. So 15 more minutes we fish. Nick says, "We're done. Let's just go." And so we got to have it. We don't have another crankbait. Finally, I get the line. We get the fish in. He cuts the crankbait off. He puts it on. I never made another cast. I stood up on the deck holding the net, and he would parallel the bank, and we caught 5 fish that day. We had 2105. And it was very crucial that we won this tournament because of some things that had went on with some of our friends, and they had 20.95.
Oh, gee.
And had we not got that fish, pulled that line in, we wouldn't even had 5 fish. And, we come in, everybody go, "Man, y'all whacked them. We didn't catch no, y'all killed them." And I'm sitting there thinking, you have no idea.
He just said about him coming in late all the time. He said, "I knew that was coming." Then he said, "I work third shift." And then he said, "We better start raising our hands because you're getting long-winded again."
Yeah, I do. I get long-winded.
No, it's good.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, exactly. We want to hear your guys' your stories.
I'll tell you another story. So we fished this all-night tournament. It's called the Bragg. They have it once a year. It's on Wilson. Well, I buy 5 pounds of shrimp and 10 pounds of crab legs. That's what I buy for that tournament. And we eat all night. Well, we're fishing this one night, and we got a giant bag. I mean, a giant bag. And he told me, he said, 11 o'clock, I'm done. I said, "What do you mean you're done?" He said, "I'm not fishing anymore." I said, "Dude, it's an all-night tournament." He said, "I'm not fishing." So we make our way back, and there's this light shining on this barge, and he had seen this giant catfish. And I throw it there and hit the barge, and he starts yelling and cussing. "What are you doing? You're trying to catch a stupid catfish. You better not." Well, all of a sudden, I feel it. Dum, dum, and I set the hook. "I'm going to cut your line. You ain't bringing that catfish in here. I'll tell you right now." A 7-pounder comes up and jumps. He says, "Oh, my God." So we get it in. I go back there. I'm calling, and I get him called, and I'm like, "Dude, we got 28 pounds." And I stand up, and I turn around. He is laid over with life jackets and rain suits up against the gear shift, and he's out. He's done. Sleep. So we're whacking them that night. So every time I'd catch one, I just swing it right over his face and he'd get wet. So finally he put the rain suit over his face. And when it got daylight that morning, we took off up to the dam and fished up there for a little bit before time to go. Well, I'm dead. I've been fishing all night. Probably didn't sleep the day before. I'm dead. I can't wait to get home. Weigh-in's over. We're driving home, and dude, I'm out of it. Now, of course, he's not. He's been away. He's been asleep all night. So I'm laid over up against the window, and all of a sudden, my head hits the window, and I said, "Oh my God, did you hit something?" He said, "No." I put my hat back on. I crawl back up against the window. Man, I get good and sleep, and all of a sudden, my head slams against the window again. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Nothing." So then I go back, and this time I'm going to just kind of act like I'm asleep. And I lay down there, and what he would do is he'd run off the road and jerk the wheel back. And he kept slamming my head up against the window. He said, "You can't go to sleep. I might fall asleep." I said, "Oh, my God, you've been asleep all night." That's the kind of stuff he does.
That's crazy. That sounds like a good time there. It's a good partner. It's almost like Doug throwing me in the lake a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that was a good video.
Yeah, yeah, it was. At that point, we knew it was. We had already talked about it. Like it was going to happen to one of us because one of us would be netting a fish or boat or getting one, and the other one would hit the trolling motor as the other one was walking back up and about to toss the other one in the water.
Yep.
So I think I about went in like 4 or 5 times before that, and Doug probably went in about the same. And
Yep.
there's a couple times where I grabbed him and he grabbed me. But it's just one of them things where you're used to fishing by yourself all week, and then you get someone else in the boat.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to. You're not used to having that other guy standing there. And
all them smallmouth that were out there, you had to hit them in the head with that drop shot, and like it didn't matter where they were at. If you seen them if you seen them lifted off bottom, like if you could see them cruising on bottom on live scope, you wouldn't get them. But if they were suspended like a foot off bottom and you pitched at them, they were eating it every time. It was absolutely crazy. Like, and it was the smallest fish. I don't think we caught a short fish in the last 3 days.
No.
Wow.
But it was definitely a crazy time. I had never been thrown off a boat like that before. So I looked down and I seen it was his prototypes, and so I decided just to go for the dive. So
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you got anything else, Doug? It's getting late and
Nope. I'm gonna have to use the bathroom here pretty soon.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I need to get my phone's about to die. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for getting on, Slick. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll do some more stuff with the Fishtok Frenzy, and once that the Open, and once that comes available with the Fisk stuff, I'm going to do a couple posts on it promoting that side of things. And they got some really cool things coming out that me and Zach talked about, and he was telling me about. I'm sure he'll be getting with you here soon about it.
Where can all these guys get the Alabama Bass Council merchandise?
It's alabamabasscouncil.com. And of course we spell council wrong. But that's where it's all at. Nate at TB Nation, he does all of it. He makes everything. He ships everything. He does it all. So.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be ordering me one of them slight touch, no penalty shirts. I think that's my favorite one. So
yeah. I appreciate it, and good luck to y'all.
Well, thanks. You guys go over to alabamabasscouncil.com and get you guys some products.
All right.
All right. See you, Slick.
See y'all.
See you. Hey, Doug, you can stay in for a second?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Hey, guys, we just want to thank you guys for being on another episode of Angling Unraveled. We're going to keep doing this every week. We got some more guests coming on next week. We're at this point, we're still figuring out who's going to be on next week. We got a couple people we've been talking to. So first one to open up and say they want to do it's going to be in. Obviously, they all want to do it, but just
if you guys have
schedules.
Suggestions too of people that you want to see on the show and kind of break down some things and hear some stories from, send us a DM. No matter what platform, just send us a DM and we'll do our best to try and get that person on if we can get in touch with them.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure to reach out to us, and like Doug said, we'll reach out to whoever. We don't care if it's KVD or freaking Joe Schmo from over in some other country. It don't matter. We'll reach out to anyone. It's what we're all about, spreading the experience to you guys. So we're about doing this with everyone. We're gonna have sponsors, both of our sponsors, some of them from each one of us, different companies, different influencers. We're trying to spread the industry out and get a little bit of everything on here for you guys, so you guys don't just get one side of things. So, but yeah, we'll be back next week for another episode of Angling Unraveled. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.